6 days after the arrest and imprisonment of their daughter Melinda in Libya, Brisbane parents John and Janelle Taylor are still waiting anxiously to hear from her. In a moment, we'll hear their plea to authorities to keep her plight a top priority. But first, how did a young Australian lawyer find herself in a Libyan prison cell? Melinda Taylor's been caught up in the political turmoil that's engulfed Libya since the toppling of Colonel Gaddafi just over a year ago. What landed her in the thick of it was her work for the International Criminal Court on behalf of Gaddafi's son, who's wanted by the new Libyan government for war crimes prosecution. Zintan in Libya is a long way from Brisbane, but it's here that Melinda Taylor is now imprisoned after being accused of spying by the Libyan government. After almost a decade working for the International Criminal Court, she was assigned to represent the son of deposed dictator Muammar Gaddafi, Saif al-Islam, who's being held for alleged war crimes. Libyan officials in Zintan detained Melinda Taylor after a routine search which they claim revealed small cameras and recording devices. They also claim the lawyers exchanged letters from and for a key figure in the Gaddafi regime, Mohammed Ismail. He's wanted by Libyan authorities.
The messages were sent to the prisoner and also letters taken from the prison to Mohammed Ismail. The exchange was carried out in secret and quickly, and we have the means to prove this if necessary.
The ICC believes the detention is illegal, as the lawyers possess immunity under international law. The Foreign Minister, Bob Carr, says Australia's ambassador to Libya, David Ritchie, travelled to Zintan and saw Melinda Taylor yesterday.
He reported that she's in good, brave spirits, and she sends a message that her family are not to worry about her. We want her out of prison as soon as possible, but the indications from the Libyan authorities is that they're going to conduct a somewhat lengthy investigation.
And a short time ago, Melinda Taylor's parents, John and Janelle, joined me from their Brisbane home. Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight. Firstly, what's the latest news of Melinda? Have you been able to speak to her yet?
No, we have not been able to speak to Melinda, neither has her husband. The only people who have spoken to Melinda is our ambassador-designate, Mr. Ritchie. He was able to speak with Melinda with 4 of the other ambassadors.
And what has he told you about how she's going at the moment?
He told us that she is well and that they have the 2 women together in one cell. They've got a fridge, air conditioning, food, and that they are as well as they can be expected.
And did he say anything about how she's managing emotionally or mentally at this time?
No, he made no comment on Melinda's emotional state. He just said that she told us, gave us a message to tell us not to worry.
That's probably a pretty hard thing to do at the moment, I imagine.
That is. It is very difficult.
Have you been given any word as to when you will be able to speak to her?
No. The ambassador asked that Melinda be able to speak to her husband and to ourselves, and that was denied. I understand he'll persist with that request, as the other ambassadors, but we've no idea when she's able to speak to us, which is very worrying.
And then how regularly are you in contact with Melinda's husband, Jeff, and how is he coping at the moment?
We're in constant contact with Jeff, morning and night, because you must be aware of the time difference, that poor Jeff is speaking to us like in the middle of his night, and at the present time he was a little bit devastated because he was expecting to speak to Melinda, and when that didn't happen, I think it was just too much for him.
And does he have any plans to go to Libya himself? No.
At the present time he has a young daughter, and he wants to keep her life on track as much as he can so that she's not aware of what's going on.
And are there any plans for any other family members or friends to go to Libya to, I guess, liaise with the government officials there?
No, not at present.
No, at the present time we have confidence in our government, DFAT, and with the ambassador that is there, and hopefully with the ICC that they can come to some form of resolution.
Are you happy so far with the efforts that the Australian government has been making on your behalf?
Oh, more than happy. It's unfortunate that it hasn't yielded a result, and that is worrying us, and that's why we are coming on camera, really, because we feel that this matter doesn't want to go off the radar. We are very concerned and worried.
And her husband, Jeff, he was the one that encouraged us to do this because he really wanted it out there in the news.
Sorry, you go on, Mrs. Taylor.
Just to realise that Melinda isn't what they accused her of. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a sister, she's a daughter. She's a human being whose human rights, really, at the present time, have been denied to her.
I'll ask you to tell me a little bit more about Melinda in a second, but just to pick up on what you said there about what she's accused of, the Libyan authorities have suggested that she's done something wrong, that she's attempted to pass a letter to Saif al-Islam. What do you make of that?
We have no comment on that because we do not have any knowledge, so we can't make any comment.
OK. Mr Taylor, tell me a little bit about your daughter. What's she like?
Well, she's very caring, and my observations, having been a lawyer myself, she's a very good lawyer, and she's wedded to her profession. She's very conscientious, and I think a bit has been written about how genuinely interested and she is in her clients and the legal process. And it's the legal process that has really brought her undone because she's just doing her job.
What drew her to the law, and in particular to this type of work, these sort of international war crimes cases?
I think that Melinda's first wanted to do arts science, and then once she decided that no, science really wasn't for her, she did law. And then once she started to do moots at Queensland University and decided that she really did like standing on her feet, and some of the subjects that they were dealing with was international law. And so when she finished university, she decided that, oh, well, I'll go over to Europe and check out The Hague. And once she went over there, she thought, right, this is where she'd like to come back to.
I imagine to do that sort of work, you must have to be a pretty independent-minded, courageous sort of person.
And very strong.
Oh, yes, Melinda is very independent-minded, and I think she'll stick up for herself as much as she can. I'm sure of that.
Is she very experienced in this type of work? How long's she been doing it for?
She's been actually over in The Hague for 11 years. She's worked with the ICC for 9 years, and she did have experience working with the ICTY when she was defending Milosevic. So she is quite experienced, and she also does lectures in how to conduct defence cases.
I understand that when she worked, that she did work in Kosovo collecting victim impact statements, including from women who were raped during the conflict in the Balkans, and that while she was there she came under fire. Is that the case?
Yes, they were bombing the churches when she was there, and they were sheltering. They couldn't go out into the streets, and they were a bit worried and concerned, and I think she told us about it, and it's certainly an experience for her. And at least where she is, she's fairly safe, we're assured of that, so that's one thing.
When she's passed on that message to tell you not to worry, I guess with her having been involved in this type of work for quite a long period of time, she probably knows that you do worry about her quite a bit, do you?
We do from time to time. The work she does can have a risk attached to it, but she's aware of that, and that's her job. She loves her job.
Have you ever wanted her, as parents, to not do that type of work?
No, we've always thought that our girls should follow what they want to do, and we've never stood in their way. She wears her heart on her sleeve, and that was the type of job she wanted to do, and obviously she's very good at it.
So what have you been told will happen next now that David Ritchie has seen Melinda?
Well, we have been told, we've been in contact with Melinda's boss from The Hague, and he has told us that they've gone back to Tripoli to regroup and to then discuss strategies. That's what we've been told for the latest. And
so what sort of options might they be looking at? What sort of strategies?
We don't know. They haven't informed us of their strategies.
We're confident that they'll keep the ball rolling, but we'd like to keep the public perception of what's going on rolling too, and we don't want it to drift off the radar. It's a worrying thing for us, and we'd we're looking for a speedy conclusion if we can.
What is the message that you would like to give to the people holding your daughter?
I don't think we'd like to make any comment on that. All we want is the process of law to go ahead and for Melinda to be released as quickly as possible.
I'm sure that everyone watching would wish the same and would wish your family very well. Mr and Mrs Taylor, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much,
Lee.
Lee.